As Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso quit ECOWAS, the regional bloc says it is working on restoring constitutional order in the three countries.
Federal government suspends work on LMS section of East-West Road.
Brazil returnee arrested with 70 wraps of cocaine at Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport, Lagos.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the withdrawal of three countries from ECOWAS, security vote, Pulaku initiative, and national reward scheme.
The state of security in parts of Nigeria has placed a demand on government to create initiatives that will help address these challenges. Now, one of such is a non-kinetic initiative targeted at tackling banditry and insurgency in some parts of some northern states. Yeah, right.
The Pulaku initiative, as it is called, aims to enhance living conditions and livelihoods in Sokoto, Kebbi, Katsina, Benue, Zamfara, Niger, and Kaduna.
Now, Vice President Kashim Shettima says 50 billion naira is budgeted for the initiative. This is one of our topics today. We'll also take a look at developments in ECOWAS. Recall that Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso quit the sub-regional bloc. This is also an issue that we'll be giving some attention to this morning.
Of course, Jume, we would also take a look at the National Reward Program, an initiative that rewards consumers across Nigeria with guaranteed life-changing cash rewards. A guest will be joining us from Lagos on this particular topic.
This is the outlook of Good Morning Nigeria today. You're welcome to the program. I am Jimoy Yusuf. We're on a high this morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, talking about being on a high, the Super Eagles took us really high over the weekend.
I can't wait for Chukwudi to come in this morning.
Yeah, it was great to see the boys, do good, and of course make Nigerians very proud and seeing the eagle dominate the lion on the field of play.
Yes, you can't take away that from the eagle. It's strong, the strength.
Of course. Yes. Fantastic, of course. And welcome, Henry John. This program is coming to you live in the network service of the NTA. Of course, in the course of the program, we'll bring you our usual segment. We'll have the papers review. We have business news, a bit on the foreign scene, and of course, take a look at sports. But for now, let's have the morning news with Mina Daniels. Mina, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Jumay and Yenri. Welcome to the news. The military regimes in Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger on Sunday announced their immediate withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, saying it has become a threat to member states. This is coming as the ECOWAS bloc denied the recipients of withdrawal notice.
There is no exception to the return to democracy as agreed in the transition time frame.
The Commission of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has clarified that it is working assiduously with Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso for the restoration of constitutional order as directed by the Authority of Heads of State and Government. A statement by the ECOWAS Commission reaffirms its commitment in finding a negotiated solution to the political impasse. It stressed that Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali remain important members of the community. ECOWAS earlier said its attention was drawn to a broadcast on the national televisions of Mali and Niger announcing their intention of withdrawal from ECOWAS. The Commission further stressed that it is yet to receive any direct formal notification from the three member states about their decision to withdraw from the community. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has arrested a Brazil returnee, Udechukwu Ekene Theophilus, at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, for ingesting 70 wraps of cocaine. The suspect was arrested during a clearance of passengers at the airport on board Ethiopian Airlines from Sao Paulo, Brazil, en route Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The Minister, Dave Umahi, has suspended work on the Eleme section of the East-West Road. The minister gave the suspension order when he paid an unscheduled inspection visit to the federal government road project in Rivers State. And those are the highlights for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Jemai and Ian Ray after this break. Good morning.
All right, welcome back. Let's take some business news.
Nigeria produces more than 370,000 metric tons of shea annually, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria and Oilseeds Association of Nigeria. Currently, the global demand for shea is estimated to grow from about $10 billion to more than $30 billion per annum, with women at the base of the chain. There's a growing call and demand to create market opportunities.
5% of shea should be in chocolates, and most of these confectionaries, I think Hershey's started adding shea to their chocolate currently. And so we're looking at not just for the cosmetic industry, but we're looking at the confectionery industry, where we're talking of $1 billion investment in there. So with our communities having share, if we have enough communities that will buy into this and have a collective number of sponsors, we'll be able to get even more villages.
Conceivable effort is through the development of the shea tree value chain towards harnessing the value chain of the natural resource under the framework of the Shea Integrated Global Foundation.
We have discovered that they can also still continue to harness the resources from the environment in a sustainable way, such that their livelihood will still continue. They will not lose their livelihood, and the environment will also continue to benefit from it.
We must take the first step, and this is one of the first steps. Enactments of policies that can, that can protect resources of our environment, and then creating awareness about the potential of those resources, and then making sure that they are produced to meet global standards so that they are exportable to increase our foreign exchange earnings.
With the collective action by key players to harness the shea tree value chain to enhance women's livelihood, industry players are adopting measures to tap the opportunities, including preserving the shea trees. With business news, Comfort and Modu.
Up next is newspaper review.
All right, our newspaper reviewer, Chukwudi Okoli-Ugbaja, is right here. Good morning, Chukwudi. Good to see you.
Good morning. I was almost getting absent-minded because I'm studying whether I can see any journalism in this piece, talking about Yemi Soba ruling the president. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. And you are on a high on the Nigerian win over the Cameroon. The Eagles stood on the neck of the lion.
I am almost choking on my words. They crawled into the group of 16.
Yes.
Did you say crawl?
They didn't crawl. No.
Did you say crawl?
No. I cannot agree with you on this.
I'm restructuring it. I'm a journalist. When they crawled, they crawled. But yesterday, when they were dashing, they were dashing.
Oh, now
That is the way we should be.
Okay.
Yes.
Osimhen did not score a goal yesterday, but he was the architect
of
all the wonders that happened from Lookman, who decided to become action man.
Yes.
So I'm only being journalistic.
And we had a very
Up until a few days ago, they crawled, but this time they flew more than the eagle itself.
Oh boy!
We should say hooray! It was a good spectacle.
I expect them to sustain it.
Yes,
we looking forward to them bringing home the trophy.
I think the message from the president sort of gingered them.
Yeah.
Telling them that
the president is a negotiator.
I
keep on using that word. He negotiates you into performance. He also negotiates you into compliance.
Yes.
He doesn't want to wield the big stick till it becomes absolutely necessary. I like his style.
Exactly.
Having said that, so that I don't begin to sound like a sycophant.
Yeah.
What are the prospects of dealing with Angola, because they are next quarry, they are next opponents.
We shouldn't be too confident going to that match. We shouldn't take them for granted.
We should go with the magic we've been going with since the beginning of the tournament.
Let us play with hearts.
Magic. That is incremental improvement.
We should play with heart, just like Osimhen played with his heart. He didn't go to win.
Claire was getting metaphysical. He didn't answer the questions I posed on one platform yesterday, though. We'll continue that fight later.
Yeah, we wish them all the best, actually. And yes,
we must praise the Super Eagles.
Yes.
That was a scintillating performance.
A repeat of the Atlanta 96.
Yeah.
There's something about football. I do not know if you feel the same way. Watching the Super Eagles do great on Saturday just made a lot of Nigerians feel really proud and super excited that they're Nigerians.
And a lot of tension
There's this spirit that comes with, the joy. There's this excitement. For me, I just wondered, what other country would I really want to be from, if not Nigeria?
When ethnic and religious bigots want
disappear,
to undo us, sports rescues us.
Yes.
So we must praise sports the unifier.
Let's quickly go to this Nigerian newspaper this morning, and just by the side piece of the headmask, we have account for over 40 trillion local government allocations set up tells 36 governors. FCT.
No problem.
That's
a request.
That's a request.
That's a request.
And rampos in ECOWAS as Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso quit sub-regional body with riders alleged foreign manipulation of organization following sanctions on coups. ECOWAS not aware of exit. And Wike concludes tour of area councils, charges residents not to politicize insecurity. And a serious one here for health challenge. I'm already feeling it actually. NIMET predicts 3-day dust haze from today. Please, NIMET predicts 3-day dust haze from today. That's on page 28. Why Akpabio comes late to plenary? That's coming from his aide on page 4. And NDLEA declares ex-beauty queen Aderinoye wanted for drug trafficking. Arrest Brazil returnee at Lagos airport as suspect excretes 60 wraps of cocaine.
All right. Some interesting stories there. Let's take a look at the Daily Times now quickly. The lead story here says Tinubu rules out Edu's reinstatement. The rider, suspended minister, indicts president's aide. Interesting story. All right, you want to read of that story, of course. Page 5 of the Daily Times would bring you up to speed. Away from that, we have NAF admits killing civilians in 2023 airstrikes in Aero. Below that, there's a cry coming from NAFDAC, and it says syringe importation killing local manufacturers. Next to that, we have we're taking decisive steps to tackle inflation, insecurity, and that's coming from the federal government. And we have AFCON 2024. Abbas charges Super Eagles to get the trophy. Oh yes, all Nigerians are saying the same thing, and page 4 has that particular news. Finally, we have Naira depreciation. Expert demands reforms to tackle foreign exchange abuse. So that's it from the Daily Times this morning. Chukudi.
Quickly, there's one you have not mentioned, probably because it's one of the papers carrying a very big advertorials. We don't want to display there. They're not paying us. So, police arrest kidnapper who killed Nabiha.
Yes, I read about it.
That's just,
Over the
okay,
weekend.
I missed it when you read it.
Yeah, it was, no, not on this paper.
Okay,
on the social
fine.
media.
It is something
yes,
we must pop up.
Yes.
Because, first of all, we're telling the criminals, you cannot do things with impunity.
True.
We have a fighting force.
There's a new marshal in town.
There's a new marshal in town.
A new sheriff.
You cannot do whatever you
Yes.
like. Secondly, we are reinforcing our belief that the police would work
Yes.
when the police really need to work.
But
This
the
is
police,
quite-
but should the police decide when they want to work? Like, they should work all the time.
I know you keep on
That's why I
popping
said
up
we
and-
have a new marshal in
It's
town.
not quite a mischievous
It's no
journalism.
longer
I like
business
it.
as usual, yes.
You like to, put in.
Yes.
Actually, it's their job to do it.
It is.
But as I said, if you say, oh, this is how it should be in Africa, because that is how it is in the UK, because that is how it is in the US, do you have the institutions that make it impossible for Chukudi to commit a crime? That is why we tend to talk the way we talk when we talk about Africa and Nigeria. It's not that we're excusing them from their duty post. Not at all. No. But you know your circumstance. If you talk out of your circumstance, I'll tell you you're crying for the moon. You're asking for the impossible. That's why we talk that way. Not that we are asking the police not to do their job anymore. I need to explain this, my dear sister.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I tell people, you have to domesticate journalism and broadcasting. They don't understand what I'm saying. When you broadcast out of your environment or do your journalism work out of your environment, you're hanging something in the air where nobody's hand is going to get to it. You must domesticate whatever you do so that you become irrevocably and completely relevant to your environment.
Yeah, true. But, just, to quickly add to this police story of, you saying, well, they would work when they want to work. I think that whatever kind of motivation they are getting at this point, or whatever kind of push that they are getting should be sustained, and if possible, improved upon, just so that the police can always work. Because it shows that they have the capacity to deal with criminals at any time.
In order that we don't sound, in order that we don't sound cynical, against the police, we also have to add that the police would work better when we motivate them better.
Give them information.
Look at the FCT minister saying that they're going to procure an equipment that will help us pinpoint where the call was made. And you say, you mean we have been negotiating whether to get such an equipment or what?
Not.
Is it that we couldn't afford it? So sometimes you say, how serious are we? Are we making the right moves? It's very important because the lives of our fellow Nigerians, are at risk.
Of course, and security is important if you want to grow any economy, if you want to improve in any way.
After
oxygen
oxygen is water. After water, food and security struggle for the third position.
Yes, that's all. Food security and security itself.
Oh, sure.
Is key to a functioning and vibrant nation.
Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso call ECOWAS a bluff, but quit block. That's how the editor has chosen to craft that headline.
And this one says Rumpus in ECOWAS.
Yeah, Rumpus. The point is this. These three countries, Sahelian regions, Sahel regions rather, they are battling poverty and insurgency. If Russia is the solution to them, well, no problem. But if you move away from the West and move to Russia, you begin to ask yourself, what successes have those who are aligned with Russia really? Africans should make their pick because Western domination is being complained about here and there. But you must make sure you're making a very efficient decision over matters, solutions that would actually work.
For your people.
The Nigerian presidency has already said, why are they talking about quitting the bloc? Technically, they are not members of the bloc because they are suspended.
Yes.
Two can play at it all the time. You think you're so smart, you're wise. Nigeria has answered them. Technically, you're not members. We suspended you. The point is, let brothers come together. Let dialogue prevail and let them eventually be reabsorbed. Because when you remove from the whole number, the subset is gone.
True.
We are no longer whole.
It's
very important that dialogue continues.
Well, ECOWAS said they've been assiduously working with these states towards, restoring constitutional order, and they said, we don't want it. Well, I think talks will still be ongoing.
No, don't bother about that. Say we don't want.
They're just dancing, you know. They're dancing in the village square
I want
to show that they have strength too.
I used to read a novel.
Are you sure they are the ones dancing, or they are being pushed to dance?
Called Nick Carter.
Since they can't see the person pushing you,
Nick Carter, an American agent.
Nick Carter.
And when he was talking about something, somebody told him, "Look, those are famous last words."
Yes.
The leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are free to say, "We won't take it," and all that. The truth is that ECOWAS still holds the bigger bargain.
Yes, they do.
They are under sanctions. They are landlocked. We are talking geographical reality.
We cannot afford a
geographical realities.
Yes.
And you're saying, no, it's okay.
But we still cannot.
Let the elders follow the boys in khaki and all that.
No, but, you know, I think that what ECOWAS should be looking at, although that's one of our topics, and we hope that the experts will give us some more of the answers to it. We just hope that they can deal with this so that other countries do not, borrow a leaf from this kind of...
They're not going to imitate them. They would have done that before now.
You know, like I already said, when Jimmy said the countries are just dancing, there's actually someone pushing them to dance. Someone is playing the music. So we just hope that whoever is playing the music for these three countries does not go ahead to play the music for other countries.
It's Russia.
It's all about vested interest.
Look, at the end of the day, whatever goodwill you think is coming from the West, whatever goodwill you think is coming from Russia, they are in it for what they can get. So play with the man whom you think you get the most advantage from. Because it's a bilateral relationship.
While China is creeping slowly and taking...
We should not...
Quietly taking...
Exactly.
Yes.
They are renegotiating Africa after the Berlin Conference of... was it 1885 or so?
1885 in Germany, yes.
They are trying again to reacquire Africa. Let Africa be wise this time around, because we really are the bride to be wooed.
Yes.
I'm not joking about it.
Yes.
This is the center of goodness. It's just that Africans don't seem to realize what goodness God has cast
and that's
on their
because,
terrain.
a veil has been put on their faces. That's why they cannot see it. And we hope that this time around they can actually, open their eyes, like we would say, shine their eyes.
We've been blinded by so many factors that we cannot mention some on this platform.
Yes.
But I believe Africans need to wake up.
We need to.
It's time to hit ourselves and say, wake up.
We can garner more courage than we think.
Yes.
To deal with the West or the East or whatever.
And we can survive without them.
We can. Of course we can. Whatever moves the world today comes from Africa.
Yeah, you can survive. We can survive without them. But how about manufacturing? What has happened to it? All those things we import.
Yes.
That's actually why
the problem.
We can still produce them in our country.
Let us get our steel mill rolling so that we can begin to fabricate so many things that are steel based and all that. Let us do all we can to improve our agriculture so that our dependency is going to be reduced.
Yes.
Over time, they begin to talk to us on equal basis because we're not inferior to them.
Yes. Well, on that note, heavy note. Thank you so much, Chukudi.
Always a joy to be with you. Thank you.
It was glad to speak with you, man to man on the set.
Man to man. Where the man?
I've never been a sexist. I respect
not man to woman.
Actually, men are in the world to service the interests of men and women.
Yeah.
If you don't do the job, they are no longer men. They are
I like that word
That's what
service.
they are.
I like the word service.
We'll take a break now. When we return, our discussion segment will begin. Remember, we have 3 topics to dig into with our guest this morning. Thanks so much. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and like we said earlier, we have 3 topics to discuss this morning, and we'll begin with the one on Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. That happened yesterday when they announced their intention to withdraw from the West African sub-regional bloc, ECOWAS.
Well, the West African countries are currently led by soldiers following coups that ousted the civilian leadership in their countries, with Niger being the latest.
And joining us to speak on this is Dr. Kabir Adamu, security risk management expert. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. He's a regular, actually.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
And also joining us from Jos is General John Temlong, first commander of Multinational Joint Task Force, former president of Alumni Association of National Defense College, and security consultant, also a regular on this program. We'll discuss security matters. Thanks so much for joining us.
always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, we sort of begin with you, and as a former as the first commander of the multinational task force, joint task force in Nigeria, and what is happening now in the sub-region. What do you think? What do you think is going on here? Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso came out yesterday to say they are breaking away from the regional bloc. First of all, they formed the Sahel Alliance. That was the beginning, and then with Mali and Niger and Mali taking the brunt of the sanctions from ECOWAS, and now they're saying, we don't want to work with you anymore. We want to go away. We want to leave the bloc. Let's have your take on that, and what does it, show for the sub-region?
Well, thank you very much. I don't think it shows anything good for the sub-region because we are moving more towards regional integration now, and we have had quite a lot of the relationship between Nigeria and Niger. Predates even the independence of both countries. Particularly, like you said, when I was the commander of the multinational joint task force, I had a contingent from Niger. By the way, at that time in 1998, when we went into operation, it was at the instance of Niger and Chad, who came to Nigeria to request that we lead the effort to defeat the rebels in the Lake Chad Basin, which was a no-go area. In fact, they had almost carved it like a country of theirs. So Nigeria decided to lead the effort, and we bore the brunt of the whole efforts because we provided more troops, we funded our own troops, we operated in their own countries, we provided assets like the air, which was used for them, and even some of the boats that were used. So I think we have come a long way with Niger Republic, but I think it's even more worrisome seeing the fact that these three countries are sort of a buffer between us and the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, and then what is happening in the Middle East, Libya being an unstable country for now. So we have a lot of terrorists who move in with arms and ammunition freely into this area. We see we have that understanding that we were fighting as an ECOWAS group, because we have free movement of our citizens. The economic aspect of it is something that we have been helping Niger to sustain the economy, because an unstable Niger creates an unstable Nigeria, especially in the northern part, where you have kith and kin living in both countries, and you have forced migrations that come in to create a lot of pressure on our own resources, which are quite lean now. So I think the leadership should have looked at this thing. Overall, is it going to be their interest to leave ECOWAS? Geographically, they are not even in a position to say, because the three of them are landlocked, and so they do not even have access to sea facilities. They always have them from either Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, or Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and the other countries, Benin, Togo. And so if we block all this, and then with the instability in the north, how are they going to get all their imports? Are they going to come by air? There are citizens that are working in Nigeria because of the free movement of citizens as ECOWAS citizens. How are they going to do? They are going to require passports to come into Nigeria. They are going to require work permit to stay in Nigeria. And I think what is happening is that they shouldn't work at the spur of the moment. We are both in very difficult situations now. They have problems which we understand, but I think for them, democracy will be the best option to come up. But it should be a negotiated settlement to to see how we can come out of this. It's not something that at the spur of the moment they think they can just pull out. Well, even if they pull out, there will be a lot of negative consequences. Because for us, you see that even Nigeria is constructing a rail line between Nigeria and Maradi in Niger. Some of the road projects as far back as General Gawan's period and the rest were provided by Nigeria into Niger. We're talking about the Trans-Saharan African Highway, which cuts across Niger and some of these countries. And the AU is even moving towards integration, and this integration is supposed to be provided by the sub-regional integration, the ECOWAS, the East African Economic Council, and SADC and the rest. So for them now to start pulling out is not a good omen. And there are far wider security implications for us, because we would not want a competition of powers, foreign powers in those areas. The Russians, Wagner, are moving into Niger. The Americans are moving back into Niger. And when you have those sort of competition just at your underbelly, it's not good for your own security. So I think Nigeria should do all it can to negotiate and leverage on the fact that we have a lot of, in the military in Niger, even in the junta now, we have a lot of their officers who trained in the Armed Forces Command and Staff College, at the National Defense College, and those of them who were under our command when we commanded that, even right now, there are some of them under the command of our Nigerian officers and the rest. We should leverage on this and make them see reason why it shouldn't be an option at all for them to start thinking of living out of ECOWAS. I think they will be the greatest losers, but we don't want to know who will lose more on the rest. But we as a big brother should bring up, if you whip a child and he cries, yes, it doesn't mean you don't love him. You have to pull him back and tell him, look, I love you. So I think we should offer carrots to them, not just the stick alone, but it should be stick and carrots to get them back into the fold, so that we can, as a whole, fight the insecurity that is bedeviling us. It's quite unfortunate, because what is happening in Mali now, if you know the sort of crisis that is there, and then you have a lot of the armed groups that are there in Mali who have combat experience, who will move freely and cross down into Nigeria and other ECOWAS countries, is not the best, because the Fulanis and the Tuaregs have been fighting in those areas, and those Tuaregs are part of the Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb. So I think it's something that we must look at it seriously and see how we can solve this. The ECOWAS Commission has issued a statement already yesterday that they have not received any communication officially, but as it is now, they are still part of ECOWAS, and that they are doing all they can, engaging both countries to see that their political situations are solved amicably. So I think that is the right direction that ECOWAS is taking, and I think Nigeria should leverage on our own relations that we have with Niger and see how we can solve these problems amicably. We shouldn't allow it happen at all. Even with
Long, yes, we'll get back to you, of course, so you could continue to give us your insight about the particular issue. At this point, let's just quickly welcome Yerima Shetima, the President General, Arawa Youth Consultative Forum. He's joining us via Zoom. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, so we'll just let you listen a bit, and then we'll come to you to hear your view about, the countries that are leaving ECOWAS, the 3 countries. Dr. Adamu, you heard General Temlong talk about, offering carrots, to the 3 countries, not just stick alone. And that's one of the main issues that the 3 countries are putting forward. They're saying that the sanctions, imposed on them by ECOWAS are things they can't take, maybe too tough for them, and so they want to leave. What's your view about, the sanctions, really? Do you take their sides? Do you, think that, ECOWAS has been too tough on these countries?
So in reality, and of course in international politics, sanctions are always an option It's debatable whether sanctions are the best way to approach matters of this nature. It's also debatable whether sanctions that affect humanitarian issues are legitimate. So as an example, when you deny medicine, when you deny power that affects hospitals, as an example, so that issue has been on the board. And I know that even the United Nations has engaged with Nigeria to try to get Nigeria to lift some components of those sanctions that would allow humanitarian services to continue. Now, what that has done is that it has allowed the government, especially in Niger, remember part of the reason why they've sustained their popularity, quote and unquote, it's been 6 months. I think yesterday was, or on Saturday was 6 months into the coup in Niger. Now, they rode on this resentment. A lot of Nigerians felt that the impact of these humanitarian sanctions, I'm speaking specifically about humanitarian issues now, not the other components of the sanctions, were not justified. And so that built public resentment. And this coupist, the military junta, they've built on that public resentment. I see this move announced yesterday as the height of what I would call political grandstanding. There was supposed to be a meeting last week between the ECOWAS mediators and the junta, and that meeting didn't hold. And I remember the Prime Minister coming out of Niger, coming out to show his anger and his objection, that they waited, they made calls, and they were told the plane that was going to carry the delegation, ECOWAS delegation, to come had mechanical issues, and that's why it didn't come. Point I'm trying to make is there was a build-up, and that build-up was based on resentments targeted towards the impact. So if, as a strategist, ECOWAS strategist, this embargo and other components of the sanctions were put to put pressure on the Nigerian government. Now, the fact that they are reacting like that says that pressure is actually hitting them. And so, on the one hand, you have an indication that the very reason why you put the sanction is achieving its result. Remember, the sanctions were put to get them to come back to the democratic table. They truncated a democratic government, and the very reason why that sanction was imposed was for the return of democracy in that country. So if they are saying that the reason why they are announcing this pullout is because of the sanctions, as a strategist, it means yes, that sanction is, the effect is being felt. But I agree with the general, there is always carrot and stick. And I think we've offered carrots. ECOWAS has offered carrots. The fact that a 3-country mediation team has been appointed, and that 3-country mediation team has been in engagement with them, and the fact that we've seen countries like even Benin soft-pedaling on some of the components of the sanction, means carrots have been offered. Now the onus is on the junta in Niger to announce a transition plan. It is not acceptable for a coup to occur. First of all, we rejected it, and I personally am rejecting it. But what is even more important is for the pressure to be on them to announce a transition plan that is acceptable to the world. They can't continue ruling forever. Initially, a discussion of a 3-year plan was mentioned. That was rejected by virtually everyone. I think Algeria attempted to step in to indicate a period. Egypt also did, and several other countries. But till date, they have not announced a transition plan, and that's not acceptable. So I think we need to be united in that regard. But I also think Nigeria needs to look at that component of humanitarian, delivery, issues around humanitarian. The hospitals need to get medicine. They need to get power. If we can do certain components, lift certain components action to allow that, I think it would help improve the current relationship. The other thing I would also want to mention is what are the options? Just like General mentioned, the situation doesn't look too good for the 3 countries. They are landlocked. Their economic circumstances is dire. security hasn't improved since the coup happened in all three countries. Burkina Faso is almost 70–80% taken over by non-state armed groups that are attacking the state. Niger also has its own share of security challenges. So nothing has improved, really, since the three coupists took over. Why ECOWAS has not engaged the other regional countries around, so for instance, in North Africa, because what are their options? Algeria as an example. They could look towards Algeria, and they did that in the last few months. They could also look towards Central Africa. But these are all longer countries with huge implications for poor countries. So point I'm trying to make is, going forward, it would make a lot of sense for ECOWAS to engage these other regional bodies in the north and in Central Africa, so that pressure that seemed to be yielding some measure of success would actually result in success. And what is success? Let them announce a transition plan that will be acceptable to the world, as it were.
Okay, thank you so much, Kabir Adamu, for your opening statement. There we now have to join Yerima Shetima, President General Ariwa Youth Consultative Forum. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria once again. All these three countries were founding, members of the regional bloc in 1975, and they've been suspended for some time. And with Niger, and Mali sort of bearing the brunt of the sanctions, like Ibrahim Adamu said, the security has escalated. There's so much hunger, and we're looking at humanitarian aid coming to this country in spite of the sanctions. But some experts also said that they remain resolute because the stick was used first before the carrot. Is that why they are so attached to their own Sahel alliance now more than the regional bloc, which is ECOWAS, and feel that they can survive on their own? Like Inyere said while we're discussing the paper review, you can't dance without somebody pulling the strings. We see Russia creeping into the scenario now and sort of boosting their confidence that they can withdraw from this bloc and survive it. Can they survive it?
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, we're listening to you.
Okay. Good morning. Though I can't hear you very well, but let me just use my discretion from the little I heard from you.
So let's quickly get to General Tom Long. I'm sure you want to respond to that question.
Would you like to? Okay, Kabir Adamu would like to respond to that question before we go to Tem Long now to ask him a more expanded question on the issue.
These are, again, to emphasize the point that these are landlocked countries that are facing significant both socio-economic and security challenges. So they are also largely dependent on foreign aid from the US, from EU, from even Nigeria. So to say that they can survive, honestly, it would be difficult. However, they have options, and we've seen them exploring those options. They've reached out to Russia, but remember, Russia is also facing its own, situation, as it were. After the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the entire world has more or less, isolated Russia. So it's limited in its ability, for instance, to step in and intervene in the manner it would have done before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. They've recently reached out to Iran, which, as you know, is also facing its own, crisis, so many across the world. Its relationship with the US is fractured, with the EU and all of that. So it's limited in its ability to, step in. Russia would not necessarily, China would not necessarily step in. It can offer aid here and there, but to the manner and to the size that these three countries are getting aid from the US, from EU, and from other the regional bodies, like including Nigeria, none of these other three options will match it. What is likely going to happen? They are building on this public resentment towards France that I've mentioned, and that public resentment will continue to grow. But at a point when the impact of the sanctions is felt by the people will have to make a choice. between supporting the juntas in those three countries and, of course, rejecting them and insisting on a democratic transition. Now, that is where the danger is. As we know, military rule always has an element of draconian tendencies. Now, the more they see public resentment, the more they will increase their hold on power using draconian means. And that is where those groups, the terrorist groups that we're discussing and the other non-state armed groups will capitalize on the fractures that would creep up. And we see more insecurity in those countries. And that's the danger for Nigeria, unfortunately.
All right. So many other countries would suffer, from all of this at the end of the day. General Temlong, ECOWAS has reacted and they're saying, well, we have not gotten a formal notification yet. Of course, in the coming days, we expect they'll get a formal notification. That's going to come. But I want to find out, what steps do you think ECOWAS will be taking, in this particular situation? And then when you spoke earlier, you talked about, offering the carrots, in your own opinion, what should ECOWAS be offering? What should ECOWAS be bringing on the table now, just so we can have these three countries back on the block?
Well, thank you very much. I think, like rightly pointed out by Kabir, what are those things that we really need to keep the citizens going in Niger? Even bilaterally, Nigeria had that agreement with Niger to supply power, which was cut off. Most of their imports used to go through our ports, Niger, Benin, Togo, and the rest. So I think what we need to do for now is actually make the citizens of Niger, which are for Nigeria too, like I said, they have a lot of kith and kin there, realize that the essence, what ECOWAS is doing is not to punish them as citizens of that country, but is to restore constitutional order in those countries. And what measures they are taking are actually targeted against the regime, not the population. And those are sort of the carrots that you want to offer. If you see the sanctions that the West are targeting, both Iran and Russia, is targeting the leadership and the rest. So what you need to do is to target the leadership and make it known to them that it's not acceptable for them to continue during this period in as a military regime. What they want, what ECOWAS wants, is that a transition program that is acceptable to both ECOWAS and not a drawn-out transition that will keep military rule for a long time. And ECOWAS, in its wisdom, think that 3 years is quite a long time. So I think we need to start relaxing some of the humanitarian aids that we want and even providing for them. That in itself creates a problem for them, because what they are riding on now is the sentiments of the citizens who are supporting them. So we need to try as much as possible to let the citizens know that ECOWAS is not fighting them. That will provide a little wedge between them and the citizens. And then thirdly, what they are actually talking about, which I think if you study the French African policy, is that it has been a draconian thing for Africans to handle that policy. And so you found out that it was a whole unanimous, it was a spontaneous thing that they don't want France again, So I think we must be careful to ECOWAS as we deal with this situation, to probably keep France in the background, not France to be seen, or the French interest to be seen as driving. And that's what the problem they have with Cote d'Ivoire. Because you see, Cote d'Ivoire itself is more or less projecting the interests of France. But if you look at what the French African interest has been, it has been quite a huge yoke for these African countries to carry. In fact, part of the reasons why ECOWAS has not been able to have the single currency that we've been talking about, like the euro, is because the CFA franc is tied to the French economy and the French central bank. And they will not be able to come in and divorce that. And so there needs to be that clean cut between the CFA franc and the French central bank for ECOWAS to be able to have a single currency. Nigeria will have our own naira, will have our own central bank, but it's not tied to the British pound because Britain colonized us. No, we have really cut that umbilical cord long ago. And so it's difficult for them. So I think what we need to do to being constructive is that the French interests that have been projected by Côte d'Ivoire should be listened. We should look at the citizens.
Long, you've really made your point on how the regional bloc should address this issue, and I'm sure it's going to be a continuing conversation on Good Morning Nigeria, where we'll be able to talk about how it will impact the after African Free Trade Agreement. This sanctions, what does it do to it? Their breakaway from the regional bloc, what will happen to after getting off the ground while it's still on the ground, because the implementation has not really gone into motion. Thank you so much. But we pause here. You're still seated while we go into our next topic. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We're now going to other matters, and as a prompt for our second conversation today, let's take this background report by Ibrahim Hamidu.
The security vote in Nigeria is a discretionary fund or allocation granted to government officials, particularly governors, for the purpose of enhancing security and combating crime in their respective states. It is important to note that the security vote is not included in an annual budget, and it runs into billions of naira and can often vary based on the level of security required by individual states within the federation. The history of security vote in Nigeria can be traced back to the military era. During that time, military governors and administrators were granted extra budgetary funds as a means to execute security-related activities without going through the bureaucratic process. These funds were expected to be used for intelligence gathering, financing security agencies, and supporting security-related operations. With the transition to civilian rule in 1999, the security vote system was retained and continued to be allocated to governors, both at the state and federal levels. Its purpose remained the same, focused on addressing security challenges within the state. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu recently approved a 50 billion naira security vote for 7 northern states in Nigeria. President Tinubu's initiative has been reported to be a non-kinetic solution to deal with insecurity and banditry in the country, which has garnered significant attention. This development comes at a critical juncture where the need for effective strategies to combat insecurity has never been more pressing. Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will delve into the classified nature of the security vote in Nigeria, its efficiency in winning wars against terrorism, and the security vote's immunity against intrusion.
All right, many thanks, Ibrahim, for the background report. Our guests are still with us, and they'll still be talking to us on this topic, looking at the Polaco initiative. But I'd like to start with Dr. Adamu. First, what is Polaco? This morning I had to ask for the correct pronunciation of that word. Polaco. Okay, you see, I'm still finding it tough. I'm sure a lot of Nigerians are wondering, what is this? Yes. So what is the Polaco initiative? And then what is the aim, really?
Okay, I will start with, I wish a representative of the Office of the Vice President was here, because they are the owners of this initiative, and I am aware that there has been an attempt to get them to speak about it. So I'm hoping going forward that government agencies will take advantage of platforms like this when they are provided, for them to honor the invitation and come and explain to Nigerians what policies they are bringing in. NTA is the largest TV network in Africa, or West Africa, as the case may be. And when you have an opportunity to speak, I think it's a very good opportunity that should not be wasted. Having said that, what we've heard about the Polaco initiative, first off, Polaco is a full-day word, which, for lack of, in literal terms, would mean modesty, trust, all those values that used to be associated with, honor and the chastity of a Fulani person. So my understanding of that initiative is that it's an attempt to reinvent and re-strengthen those values that were known to be associated with the Fulani person. As far as the policy is concerned, the first time we heard about it was from the Vice President during a public speech in Kano, when he indicated that there were plans, had gone far. And then, of course, after the Tudumbiri incident in Kaduna, he also repeated that and promised that part of the funds from that initiative would be used to rebuild Tudumbiri community after the unfortunate bombing incident. And then, of course, more recently, we heard of the amount that has been set aside for that policy. We've also heard that 7 states have been, identified as beneficiaries of that fund. Now, the relevance and importance...
Could you list the states?
Unfortunately, I don't have them.
We have Sokoto, Kebbi, Katsina, Benue, Zamfara, Niger, and Kaduna.
All right. And all of these states are states that are affected by banditry. And so I think that is the relevance. I was about to make the point that studies have shown that using kinetic means alone would never address banditry issues. It's, in fact, the study says kinetic should only be 20%, while non-kinetic should be 80%. And I think that is the relevance and importance on initiatives like this. They step in to support these non-kinetic measures. However, there are certain elements that if any non-kinetic measure is going to be successful, we must observe those elements. Number one, what is the buy-in of the targeted population? In this instance, the targeted population is the Hada population, a significant number of which are Fulanis. So we'll be interested going forward to see the strategy that the implementers of the policy would use to get the buy-in of that population. I know not too long ago, there was an attempt to bring together about 18 groups that are headed by, nomadic and pastoralist, and we know who led that initiative. It will be interesting to see if that person is part of this move. The second point is the transparency with which the policy itself is going to be implemented. I mean, several times we've seen policies come up like this, that, for all intents and purposes, their intentions are good, but unfortunately, because of the manner they are implemented, you find out that the results will never meet the objectives for which they are set up. So for that purpose, I'm encouraging especially the Office of the Vice President to embrace monitoring and evaluation components, show in clear terms, first off, what is the objective? And then secondly, what are the strategies they intend to use to achieve those objectives? And in doing that, develop key performance indicators that would have timelines, so that you as a journalist, I as an interested Nigerian, can now look and say, okay, based on the KPIs and timelines you've set for this, you've been able to achieve X, Y, Z. If it's shrouded in secrecy in the manner that it is at the moment, then it won't allow us to monitor and evaluate the performances of that. The other thing that I think is also absolutely important is to get the buy-in of the governors. The 7 states that have been listed are headed by governors, and those governors are passionate, at least from what we've seen, in addressing those security challenges in their country, in their states. They can provide the platform for which the federal government can reach the affected population. So if they are carried along, I think it will be a win-win situation, as against if they are not carried along. And then, of course, lastly, it's also to ensure inclusion. Women most times are the victims of these types of crisis. So if we involve more women into the whole, and of course youths, the pool from which the non-state actors recruit and try to achieve the heinous activities they achieve are usually youths. So if youths are involved ab initio from the onset of the project, I think the success will be more guaranteed than if they are not involved.
You're right. You've raised some pertinent issues in your response to Yere's question. Let's bring in Jonathan Long now. Kabir Adamu spoke about transparency, key performance indicators, a buy-in from the governors of the state, and he also talked about the huge population of women and youth in these areas where these bandits bring them in, give them money, and encourage them to go into crime. 50 billion has been earmarked for this initiative, and like Kabir Adamu said, there's a lot of secrecy surrounding it. It needs to be more open for people to fully understand the initiative. What do you think?
Very much, Jumai. I think it's absolutely right in a democracy for citizens to know what the government is doing, and for the citizens to be engaged in whatever they're doing. So the question of transparency is not just an option, but it is our right as citizens to know what the government is and whether they are engaging with us. And that is the crux of what is happening now in Nigeria, is that how are the citizens being actively engaged in governance? Are we actually engaged? What are participation of citizens in governance? And that is what will translate to what democracy is, because it is government of the people, by the people and for the people. So how do we fall into this participation? And that means then we should be carried forward, because I think what the Polaku is, from my little understanding of it, is something to enhance the living conditions and the livelihoods of the people or the Fulanis in those areas. But then what one will be interested in, and if we have had actually how the policy was developed, was it bottom up or top down, as we usually do? If it's top down, then there will be a lot of efforts that like what Kabir said, for the people to buy in. But if it's bottom up, it means that the initiation of that the policy itself had the citizens involved, those who are affected involved, and they will tell you what are those things that they require immediately, the quick fixes and the long-term things that will enhance their living conditions and livelihood. It's not what we sit down in our air-conditioned offices and think that, look, if we do this thing, it will enhance their livelihood or living conditions. No, there are basic things, but they have their priorities. So the engagement of the citizens is key. Now, getting the governors involved too is key. I have advocated, and I'll continue to advocate, is that there is a disconnect between the governors and the federal government when it comes to this issue of security. The governors want to say, yes, they are the federating units, they are the head of their units, but when it comes to security, security is not dealt with in isolation. And when they come in to governance, like we've seen in the past 8 years, you have seen discordant tones, in fact, sometimes it's even on party lines. Some of them do start engaging with terrorists, thinking that by doing that, they will stop. We saw it in the past, where terrorists came into government houses with Kalashnikov hanged on their necks, collected money, and the next minute they move away, gave respite, came back again. It has not stopped. So I think there should be a holistic approach that either the Office of the National Security Advisor, in conjunction with the National Defense College and probably NIPS, to organize some capacity building for our governors and those involved to understand the concept of hard power, soft power components, the strategy that is being employed by the government, our national security decision-making process, the security architecture that they have, and how they fit into it, and how it can be used effectively in collaboration with the federal government to achieve synergy to provide security for their own citizens. Thinking that being chief security officer is just giving orders to the police or to the military establishment and the rest is what makes them a chief security officer is not. So I think there should be not just the buy-in of the governors, but there has to be some capacity building for them to understand, even if they were not carried along when those policies were being developed, for them to understand the concept itself of the policy and how they intend it to be executed, and how does it fit into their own plans at the state level that they are doing to enhance the livelihood and the living condition and livelihood of their citizens in those areas. That way there will be synergy, there will not be duplication of effort, there will not be wastages. So I think we need to go beyond just the policies, but go right down to see how the implementation is going to be done, and carrying out the implementers at the state, local government levels along. You need to build in the local government into this, because that's where the citizens are. So it is done like the key performance index. Yes, you need those. You need timeline to review the policy and see whether it's working or not. You need actually citizens who should be able to give you these policies are working or not. So when you are talking of evaluation itself, let's have evaluation from down to, and let's have it from top to see how it works. Not what... All
right, General Temlong, of course, you have made very, important, suggestions, or if you like, statements on how, this policy can actually be more impactful. But I want to stay with you, and the reason I'm staying with you is because of the part of the country you're from, this is Pulaku, and like Dr. Kabir Adamu already mentioned, it's a Fufude word, and it's targeted at the Fulanis in 7 states, to cushion the effects of insecurity. I want to find out from you. We know that not just the 7 states are affected by insecurity in the country. There are other states that are suffering, from the effects of insecurity. Do you really think that, this initiative would be rightly, what's the word now? Do you think it will be taken by other parts of the country who think, well, they should be getting, something like this from the government? Looking at 50 billion naira for each state. Just for a start.
No, not for each state. 50 billion naira for the whole.
Oh, 50 billion naira for the whole state. Well, whether 50 billion for each or 15 billion naira for the 7 states. But I just want to find out. There are other states that have been affected by insecurity. Do you really think this is the right step, to handle the insecurity in this country? And how do you feel other parts of the country will perceive this policy?
Thank you very much for asking that question. I was going to even come to it, because I think the state of Plateau has been most devastated since the return to democratic rule in 1999. And I think even if we are going to do that pilot project, Plateau should have been one of the states that should have been included. So I think it's quite, and probably we should, when they explain it, we should actually hear whether this is a pilot program and how long will that pilot program last before other states come in. But definitely Plateau should have been amongst the states, because we have suffered the brunt of this crisis more than any other state in Nigeria. They are all started recently in the Northwest. We have been in it since 2001. So how do you justify Plateau being left out of this initiative? Probably, well, I don't know how it's done, but I think when we hear from the Office of the Vice President how they pick those states based on what parameters or indices that were used to pick them, we'll get to understand better. But honestly, I thank you very much for bringing it up to the fore. Plateau State and other states that have been involved. In the Northeast, you have the Northeast Development area, just like the South-South, So I think that one covers the Northeast. But what of the other states in the North Central that are not involved? Plateau, I know of Niger State has been devastated a lot too. I don't know that Taraba State is involved and the rest. So I think there is a need actually to expand this thing as quickly as possible to cover this state. Because if you do it in bits and pieces, the tendency is that you are healing the left arm and the right arm is rotting. So you need to heal them simultaneously so that the body can be whole. If not, by the time you want to heal the right arm, it would have been eaten deep so much that it might be paralyzed or it might be amputated. So I think security has to be treated holistic. You don't deal with it compartmentally in bits and pieces. Thank you very much for that question, and I appreciate you for remembering my state for that. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, General Telong. You know, I was wondering myself why Plateau State is not part of this initiative, because I heard Senator Lalong on the floor of the National Assembly saying that Plateau State needs a commission that will be able to take care of the security challenges there and the outcome of it. Now let's come back to the studio here where Kabir Adamu is sitting to fully understand this Pulako initiative. During the Buhari administration, we had the National Livestock Transformative, policy, I think. Whatever happened to that policy that now we are going into a Pulako initiative? It's all, geared towards, enhancing the living standard of the Fulanis.
Yeah, under the livestock transformation policy, one of the critical components was the establishment of rugas in different states. And I know there was a lot of pushback, by different states saying that their lands will not be taken. But a few states bought into the policy.
Like Nasarawa State.
Nasarawa, and if I remember, Zamfara, Kano, and several others. And I know monies were given to those states. So this is, I think, the relevance and importance of transparency. There is a need for perhaps a review of that policy. And a report to be written and made public to Nigerians to know what happened to those policies. I know, as an example, in the case of Zamfara, there was a lot of discussions around where the then governor, who is incidentally a minister now, built this so-called Ruga, and I doubt if it was embraced by the target population. So you probably have facilities that have been built that are wasting there. So this is where I think our National Assembly needs to step in and do a review of that policy, the National Livestock Transformation Policy, and then see how the monies that were disbursed under that policy were utilized. And then more importantly, see if there is a linkage between that policy and then this Pulaku initiative. Continuity in governance is important, especially given that it's the same political party that was and is at the moment. The objectives are welcome, like we've all indicated. However, it should not be isolated. I agree totally with the general that you can't compartmentalize security. In this instance, you have a threat element that is moving between states. And so if you're going to deal with that threat element, you need to deal with it holistically. And I know as part of the Renewed Hope agenda, there is an element that talks about developing strategies to address security challenges in the various regions. So the idea is to look at the northeast, northwest, north central, south, southwest, and southeast, and come up with strategies that are specific to the threat elements in them. Now, I know I can tell you from where I'm seated that the environment in north central and northwest are almost the same. So the same threat elements that are affecting these two regions can be addressed by the same strategy. So as an example, this Pulaku initiative, I don't see why it's not embracing the entire 13 states in those two regions. It would have made a lot of sense. And I'm also asking myself, let me be the devil's advocate here. How much is 50 billion for the kind of challenge that we're discussing? 50 billion to address, I mean, even to Tudumbiri, if you are going to be honest, that 50 billion will not be able to develop infrastructure in just one community like Tudumbiri.
But, what also comes to my mind, thinking about this initiative is how other initiatives in a bid to solve security challenge has gone in this country. We're seeing, looking at history, beautiful policies on paper. Implementation, like General Temlong, is an issue. And then we have the issue of leaders in these communities taking advantage of initiatives like this just to enrich themselves without anything trickling down to the populace who actually need such support. So what should the government be doing differently this time around? Because, I mean, some people are just sitting in one place in their palaces, in their, in their houses, and then they get all the money and nothing gets to the people.
Exactly, and that's why, when we laid the foundation, myself and the general, we highlighted and emphasized the importance of transparency. Transparency would help reduce this. The Europeans say trust is good, but control is better. We trust these leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, sometimes political leaders. We trust them. That's why we gave them we voted for them to govern over us. But we can also control them. And we've given some elements on how to control them. We've talked about putting out a strategy. We've talked about key performance indicators. We've talked about being open, transparent with the policy itself. Unfortunately, at the moment, some of those key elements are not being observed. We must say the truth. They are not being observed. And so going forward, we hope that they will be observed better. That policy needs to be made public. Let the criteria for the selection of those states be made public. Let's know. Number two, let's know what that 50 billion is going to be used for. I think it's the amount. It doesn't tell me that a lot can be done with that amount. But I mean, even if it's to set the strategy, there are development partners. I know this, that would be happy if you have a transparent policy with clear key performance indicators. There will be development partners that can even come in to support that policy. But if you shroud it in the kind of secrecy that it is at the moment, nobody would put his money into it. Everybody wants to solve the banditry challenge in Nigeria. Nigeria is too important, really, for banditry to continue to afflict it in the manner that it is. So control is absolutely important. And earlier on, I spoke about the role of the National Assembly. Now, it would be interesting to know if the National Assembly had any input in the development of this policy. Now, if they didn't, they're, I think, resuming today or tomorrow. So we're hoping that we'll hear from them. Let them step in to prompt conversations around the policy itself. Ask those critical questions that we're asking at the moment, and where they are not satisfied or where they feel that there is a need to enhance the policy. I mean, they are representatives of the people. I mean, the most recent history of Nigeria should have taught us lessons. They had Al-Majri School Initiative under Goodluck Jonathan, a beautiful policy, but where is it now? Not too long ago, we spoke about the livestock transformation policy. Where is it at the moment? Now we're going into another one. So, I mean, let's not forget our history too soon. Lessons can be learned from there, and I cannot emphasize enough the role of M&E. I believe that all the MDAs, starting from NTA, yes. your M&E unit,
that's what we're doing now,
should be strengthened. Yes. Let all these MDAs strengthen their M&E units to the point that those M&E units can support the achievement of all objectives. Because what they are going to do is to look at the policy and develop KPIs. And those are the KPIs that will be measured internally first. And then, of course, you now have external elements like the National Assembly that can come and look at it. I don't think we're doing enough. And because this is security, I have over time been speaking about the need to strengthen standards and then M&E within our security architecture. This would help a lot. If we're able to solve the banditry challenge, and that's why I don't want to be misread, the policy is amazing. It's welcome. But if it's not implemented in the manner that we have discussed earlier on, then unfortunately we'll look back just like we've looked back at the Al-Majri School Initiative and the National Livestock Transformation Policy to say why didn't X, Y, Z, why didn't they do it?
Okay, General Temlong, before in 1 minute, I would like you to, talk about the community that this Pulako initiative is targeted at. Usually, the communities do not even know what is going on. How much education do they need? Every time I talk about the NIO coming into the conversation, should they be used to educate, to enlighten people on initiatives like this so that they can understand and key into it and make sure that it is implemented?
Thank you very much, Juma. I think that should have been the first thing in the policy initiation process itself, because you need the National Orientation Agency to come in and start asking the people and then enlightening them on what government wants to do and how do they think it can be done. That way the community buys into that and they see it as their own project because it has been initiated, and they will say, look, we are the ones who started this. I think what we need to do is to interrogate our policy somersault or failures in this country. Why have those policies not been? Because it looks as if those policies are initiated without the input from the community. The community don't have a buy-in. You have so many projects or white elephant things placed in the communities, and they vandalize them because they don't even know what they are there for, or they don't even protect those things that have been established for them there. And so the key thing to do is for the community to be brought in. Now, if they have not been brought in, then you need a lot of buy-in, selling out to them, to look, sell these projects to them, let them buy it into it, and let them give you some of the things that you need to actually fine-tune the policy itself in the implementation stage, and how do they come into it to take the ownership of those things. So they have to be involved in the implementation too. More often than not, you see contractors come in, sometimes even with the artisans and the rest, and start working without the community actually getting anything out from those contracts or from the implementation. So you need that buy-in from them. And once they buy in, they see it as their own project, and they hold it and defend it dearly because it is theirs. If you don't do that, then you are just putting projects there that will not stand the test of time, and they will go the same way as the Almajiri schools and the livestock transportation and many other policies that have been initiated.
Many thanks, General Temlong, for your insight on the two topics this morning. We do appreciate you. Of course, this is a conversation that would continue in the coming days, weeks, months. Of course, we want to see it being implemented, and we want the impact felt, of course. So we appreciate you, General Temlong, First Commander of Multinational Joint Task Force, former President of Alumni Association of National Defense College, and Security Consultant. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
Right. Of course, we appreciate Dr. Kabri Adamu, Security Risk Management Expert. Many thanks for your insights once again, Dr. Kabri Adamu.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me too.
In fact, I'm just thinking that very soon we're going to have a program, and then he's going to be one of the presenters. Yes.
Giving me an employment.
All right, and then of course we want to appreciate Yarima Shetima. Unfortunately, network couldn't help us establish a good connection with you, but we hope some other time would hear your insight on
more on the youths.
Exactly. So many thanks, Yarima Shetima. Of course, I will take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. We have a third topic. It's a loaded day. Stay with us.
You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now, let's turn our attention to our third topic for the day. Nigeria's current economic outlook and how the country can transcend this state is an issue of serious debate, with some insisting that it requires all collaborative efforts from stakeholders across both the government and private sector in churning out implementable, such as a national rewards program.
Well, this initiative rewards consumers across Nigeria with guaranteed life-changing cash rewards when they purchase goods and services from Nigerian companies. The program is a public-private partnership that puts cash back directly into the hands of Nigerian consumers when they patronize Nigerian businesses. Sounds really good, Jume.
Very good. Well, joining us from our Lagos studio to speak more on the National Rewards Program is Bolaha Olojide, finance analyst and social commentator. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Explain to us what this is all about. I'm a consumer. I go and buy things. How can I get, cash rewards in return for what for the purchase of goods and services? Try to tell us more, because it's like a good news. Good. It rings very, very nice to the ear.
Yeah.
Yes. Explain it to us, please. Let's understand it, and our viewers watching this morning.
One of the things that is known, or is well known, is loyalty programs by a lot of sellers in the market, and that cuts across consumption of telecom services, banking services, retailers, and all sort of people who offer one good or service to the country, from time to time do have all these loyalty programs. But what we have not seen, or what has not been popular, is these loyalty programs being done in cash. Typically, if you go to a store and buy stuff and they are doing all this loyalty program, so you might have, oh, if you buy this, you get this, or if you buy this, I give you some points that you can keep and use to purchase in the future. But what this other program is saying is that rather than give people points, or rather than give them certain other items in the shop, we will give you cash back once you attain the threshold that we have set. So an MTN might say, this are just using arbitrary numbers, that if a particular customer bought 1,000 naira worth of airtime, then I will give a cash reward of 10 naira or 50 naira, whatever the number is. And this cash reward can be used for anything, even outside purchasing MTN airtime. He could take that reward and have it credited to his bank account, for example. He can also use it for any purpose that he may desire whatsoever. So this is why this cash token thing is particularly different from other reward schemes that we know of. Now, beyond the cash wallet, which is created, you now have a draw that is also associated with it. So I'm saying, in the course of my normal consumption, I've consumed a particular item up to a threshold, and I get a cash token credited to my wallet. But on a weekly basis, the provider of this service is saying there will be a draw. And I think this is the attraction, really. Apart from the cash that is already put in the wallet, then there is a weekly draw. And in the course of that draw, people could win between 5,000 naira and 100 million naira. So you can imagine someone who has met the threshold for consuming airtime or a banking service or even a government service, and by virtue of meeting that threshold, he gets entitled to that raffle ticket that makes him participate in the weekly draw. And anything could happen in that weekly draw, from 5,000 to 100 million. 100 million definitely is something that could change the life of even a million.
Very good. And, you know, what's on my mind now is how every Nigerian can participate. You just mentioned buying airtime, you know, transacting business with a government agency. What if I go to the market to buy a basket of tomato? Would I also be able to participate in this cash reward scheme? You know, I'm saying because not everybody, you know, may go to the bank to use the bank, you know, all the time, or, you know, have business to do with government. You know, some people just patronize the normal open market. My cameraman is laughing. Yeah, so if he wants to buy a biscuit across the street, can you also participate in this?
The way people at that level can participate will usually be through the consumption of their airtime and data. Irrespective of the fact that you go to the open market to buy tomatoes, you still consume items like airtime, 100 naira airtime, data, whatever the data amount you consume is. So through that window, people can participate in the scheme.
You know, an increase in consumer spending as a result of this cash rewards that is offered to consumers?
I think this, for me, is the most important part of the scheme. When you incentivize people to consume, so ordinarily, let's say I normally buy 1,000 naira airtime every week, and I am being incentivized to buy 1,100 because there is a reward of 50 naira that comes back to me. What that does is that it incentivizes people to consume because of the cash reward that goes into their wallet and the fact that they are now entitled to participate in a raffle draw that could lead to winning of between 5,000 and 100 million naira. So once people plug into that and they are consuming more, it means that for those businesses, the sales increases. When the sales of the businesses increases, then there will be more profit. They are able to employ more, and government benefit more because they pay taxes more when they make more profit. When they employ more people also, it has a positive impact on the economy. So incentivizing consumption will help to create certain multiplier effect within the economy and create activities, economic activities that will be beneficial for growth generally for the economy.
Bolaho, you know, listening to you, I'm just smiling ear to ear because, you know, I like the sound of this, really. But
you like the sound of money.
Some Nigerians may be asking if you think this is the right time for this kind of reward program, considering the economic situation. You know, do people really have a lot of cash to spend? And on the kind of things you're talking about, how many people are actually making calls that are not necessary these days, looking at how much you have to spend on other things? Anyways, that's on one end. Then, do you really think that this program will benefit small businesses, you know, not necessarily the big businesses that are already up there and making all the money? Would he encourage, you know, small businesses, you know, the entrepreneur on the street and all that? Can he help boost their businesses too?
Definitely. Small businesses, entrepreneurs, they are all also on one side consumers. So they consume at two levels. At their personal level, they consume. And then their small businesses also consume certain goods and services. So at these levels, at these two levels of their consumption, they can plug into this scheme and be a beneficiary, not just of the cash wallet, an amount that gets into their cash wallet by virtue of their consumption, either at individual level or at business level, but also into the weekly draws. So imagine a young entrepreneur, by virtue of his consumption, wins a 10 million naira draw at the end of a week. That could definitely transform the business, the small business. And these are the opportunities that exist out there. As a matter of fact, because the program will also involve, you know, you can design it. The raffle draw will ride on the back of certain algorithms, you know, and those algorithms could be defined, could be designed and defined to ensure certain level of redistribution. So you want to pass money to consumers, and you can also now stratify how that money goes to different level of consumers. So definitely entrepreneurs and small businesses can benefit by virtue of their consumption at both individual level and at their small businesses levels.
Do you have a projection or estimates on the potential economic impact of the program?
The owners of this program have made certain projections which are based on research. For example, it is anticipated that the revenues that could accrue to government could be within the range of over 500 million up until about 1.2 trillion. I mean, over 500 billion up until about 1.2 trillion naira to the government. Well, you see, Nigeria's economy is not just, you know, it's the largest in Africa, we have been told. And it is not just on paper, it is in reality. So how the organizers of this scheme plug into that huge economy, build trust of the people around the scheme. Once people see that, oh, this is working. Oh, the weekly draws, people are winning. Oh, when I make purchases, I actually get an amount in my wallet. People will massively embrace the program, and it is possible to generate massive income for the stakeholders in the program. There are also estimates around the wealth redistribution capacity of this. Look, one of the main problems that the redistribution of wealth in the country has suffered is integrity. People people have not really expressed much trust in how the distribution of, especially to the lowest rung of the ladder, how it has been going. We all knew what happened recently and all of that with the humanitarian affairs. But when you have a partnership that now has a private sector participant in the mix, driving the stuff, you can build a better level of trust with the people. And as people watch these things being delivered, their trust is further enhanced and confidence in the program, and they will embrace it. Nothing is impossible as far as those numbers are concerned if this is executed the way it ought to be.
Talking about executing it the way it should be, I would just like you to, let me and the viewers know how transparent would this be? Because, somebody may just be thinking this is not just another kind of I don't know, one of those money-making schemes in disguise, and maybe I don't know. So just let us know how do you intend to make this program, as transparent as possible, so that if you benefit anything, you're able to get your money like you have said. And then how do you intend to make the program sustainable? It's not just going to be something temporary, and then can actually bring about wealth redistribution, which is the focus of the program.
And you keep talking about the wallet. How do you create the wallet? How do people create the wallet so that they get paid into?
Now, first heard of cash token. I'm like, what exactly is cash token? Have I not seen something like that before? So what did I do? I went onto my phone and did a search on my SMS for cash token. And I found out that I have actually received 4 cash tokens in the past. Some of them were as old as, a couple of them were as old as 2019 cash tokens. So I'm like, oh, okay, I've been getting these SMSs, so what are all this about? Okay, if I receive cash token, where is the cash token? So I was told I should put in a USSD code and check. So I put in the USSD code, and guess what? The cash token all the way from that 2019 was still sitting in my wallet on that my telephone. So when people are told, when this program is fully deployed, and people are told, or they get the message, oh, you've received a token, and they go to their wallet using the USSD code or any other aspect that the providers will give them, and they are able to see that the cash is actually in their wallet, and they've been told that this cash that is in your wallet, you can use it to, and they go there and they say, move this cash into my account, and it moves. That right there is transparency. Then when it comes to the raffle draws or the weekly national draws, people want to know real people that are winning. So this should be public matters, and then let's have real people that are making those wins. These are the things that will build transparency, that will ensure transparency, or rather, that will build confidence of the consumer. The transparency will build confidence of the consumers to participate in this program. So as they see that, the more they embrace it, the more the clientele base will expand, and the more we can stimulate consumption by virtue of the program.
Okay, Mr. Bolahan Olojede, National Rewards Program Finance Analyst and Social Commentator. Well, we'll be watching. We'll see how it goes. You get our feedback. When some people are, once I get my reward, you get the feedback. Okay, thank you so much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria, and Sport Update is next.
Record 7-time champions Egypt, like an injured talisman, Mohamed Salah were knocked out of the Africa Cup of Nations on Sunday after losing a penalty shootout 8-7 against DR Congo. A tense last 16 clash finished 1-1 after extra time, with Meshak Elia scoring on 37 minutes for DR Congo and Mustafa Mohamed equalizing in first half added time from a penalty. Goalkeeper Lionel Bassi converted the winning sports kick in San Pedro after fellow shot stopper Mohamed Abu Gabal had seen his kick strike the bar and fly over.
Can he win it? A pass! Egypt are out 8-7 on penalties.
In the other AFCON Sundays game, Mohamed Bayo headed in a dramatic winner in the 8 minutes of injury time as Guinea beats 10-man Equatorial Guinea 1-0 on Sunday to advance to the quarter-finals.
Diakite on the overlap. Can he get the cross in? It's a good ball in! Oh, they've got the winner! It's Mohamed Bayo on the stroke of full time. It's all over. Guinea will advance.
Guinea will now face the Democratic Republic of Congo in the last 8 in Abuja on Friday.
Your Australian Open men's singles champion for 2024, Yannick Sinner.
That's Good Morning Nigeria for today. 3 topics. I hope you found it informative, entertaining, and educative. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the program. I am Jumai Yeso.
And I would like to call it info edutainment package
today. Yes.
I'm Yenre John. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, remain tuned to the Nigerian Television Authority.